Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. Excuse me. We're doing an Eden run. Lucky number 14. We went right over 13. Sorry, I went to the first save file for a second there and got very confused. I was like, basement 27 seconds. What is this? The maximum amount of time I want to spend in my basement after dark as an adolescent because I'm worried a monster is going to come out of the boiler and eat me? FZLWC4GH. With, unbelievable stats? Like stats that need to be seen to be believed? So we must have, I mean, 8.45 is not our damage. Our damage is 6. So we must have had, maybe like as much as 4.5 damage, like the upper end for Eden, combined with the pentagram as our item, which is like a plus 1.5 or 2, combined with a really, honestly, much better than acceptable fire rate. And then our HP is really, like, higher than we would ever expect as well. I mean, this is just, it's kind of like your dream run. So I am not, I'm far from upset, let's put it that way. I'm a happy man, we're getting luck upgrades. It is the first Isaac run of the day, and honestly, today it might be the last Isaac run of the day. Fridays are real busy now. I had some errands to run. Errands have been completed. Had some, well, I recorded TrackMania already today. It was a relatively short TrackMania video, only like 44 minutes long. I just want you to know, in my heart of hearts, I believed, without a doubt, 100% full stop, when I started the TrackMania Track of the Day series, I believed that the videos would be 15 to 20 minutes long on average. Because that's what I had to tell myself to get the content done. You know, I was like, well, I can't add another 40-minute video daily. That's insanity. But what I can do, and I'm not willing to use a bomb to get a half spirit heart at this point. Our optics are better like this, I think. But what I can do, I can boot it up for 15 or 20 minutes and get the author medal and then, or maybe the gold medal and be on my way. Turns out it's not that easy to get the golds and especially the authors on the on the daily challenges. On some of the summer tracks, it's just like drive in a straight line, you did it. But I'm sailing away. There we go. On those tracks of the day, track of the morning to you laddies, can be a little tougher. Just a little, but, you know, problem solved. I'm glad. I mean, like, it's a quality problem to complain about. Let me put it this way. On YouTube, you know, you can run into two problems. And it depends on how you live your life, and I've straddled the line on this one. You could be working a lot and making stuff that nobody wants to see, i.e. the 1 year of my life where essentially all I did was play Slay the Spire and Isaac, and then, you know, I mean, we were still running the NLSS and stuff like that, but, you know, it was like Isaac, Slay the Spire, and then one random game for a little time period. You know, I would, that was a period where I was manufacturing demand. I do prefer that. For those audio-only listeners, we got Book of Shadows to replace Book of Belial, and then also Booger Tears out of our re-rolled item room item pedestal. It's a great situation. But now we're almost in like the opposite situation. People love to watch TrackMania. They love to watch Fall Guys. They vary on Northernlion tries. Monster Train's still going strong, and Isaac's a mainstay. So, you know, we got like a lot of stuff that people enjoy watching. So it's a good time to be panic. That's just panic. That's okay. It's a good time to be working hard. Let's put it that way. I'm a happy man. Always nice when you're I mean, Dan and I were talking about it on the most recent Check the Wire, but, you know, generally speaking, on YouTube, you know, in month X, well, I mean, well, I don't know why I would say month X. Let's just say hypothetically is like June. In June, you're working 40, 45 hours a week. You're making, let's just call it 100 money units. In August, you're working 40, 45 hours a week. You look down at your hypothetical paycheck and you're like, what the heck? 60 money units, but I've been working the same amount. And you realize that, you know, it's, well, if you'll excuse me here, just let me take a look at this. Trust me when I say, I think this is fine. We got brimstone. Trust me when I say I'm not complaining. However, it's, you know, it can be disheartening that you're, like, working the same amount and getting less out of it. Now, admittedly, that's just kind of, like, the entertainment business. Not to glorify or, you know, say that, you know, Daniel and myself are in the business of, like, we're the same as Hollywood celebrities. But, you know, like, your stock rises and falls with demand, you know? It's sort of more like riding the market than it is like having a normal job. You know, another good way to describe it is that it's almost like being like a commission-based salesperson. Not to say that our duties are to sell things, but rather, like, you know, your performance month to month varies according to things that are to some extent maybe outside of your realm of control. You know, if you work at the Ford dealership, you don't control when Ford employee pricing starts. You don't control, you know, if Car and Driver just put out a review saying that the Ford Focus is this generation's biggest lemon and you should never purchase it. You don't have any control over that stuff. So you might work, you know, 40 hours a week in April and make X, and then you're making, you know, 0.7X in May. What I would say to you is, find yourself a Fall Guys. Maybe start working at the Tesla dealership or the Mazda dealership, or, you know, Toyota's pretty solid as well. I guess it's not that easy, but you know, the metaphor has become so stretched that it no longer resembles what it originally intended to be, so we're just kind of trying to find a way out. I have heard, look, here's the thing. I bear ill will towards the Ford Motor Corporation. It's not out of any sense, like, I think most people who, like, hate a car company, maybe not most people, let's reframe. I feel like many people who hate a car company do so because they own a competing product. The same way, like, and we are going to take this, by the way, just in case. We got a great run, and the Guppy help will be very nice here. But I feel like, you know, if you ask most people who are like, I hate Xbox, if you really got to drill down to why they hate Xbox, the answer is probably because they got a PS4 for their birthday. And now they're like, their PS4 rises in their own perceived value if the Xbox falls, you know? What you should... Well, let's not get into it. I was going to say the reason we hate Xbox is because of the fact that our first generation Xbox One can barely play a Blu-ray without giving us an error message. And that's not an exaggeration at all, but so be it. If you'll excuse me, I'd like to open this golden chest if possible. If you'll excuse me. Not possible. But I feel like when most people have, like, a bumper sticker that's like, you know, I hate Ford, Chevys for life, or they have Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, like, peeing on the GMC logo or something like that, it's because they own the competing brand, right? I have an inassailable, that's not the word, I have an unassailable dislike for the Ford Motor Corporation. We bought a car from them, and the car is a stinker. It's a known pseudo-lemon. By which I mean to say that it's drivable, but it has some known issues that the Ford Motor Corporation has faced class action lawsuits against, where it is settled. And thus, in my opinion, I don't know if this is how it works legally in the system, but in my opinion, a settlement is to some extent an admission of guilt, or at least an admission of, you know, we may be right, but it's going to cost us too much to go through this. Maybe that's not the way I should look at the legal system, to be fair, but either way. If you're like, go easy on the Ford Motor Corporation, the answer is no, I will not. And the reason is not because I want to see the company fail, it's because I want, you know, my opinion on the company is that they're, stinky because of my experiences with them. If you had amazing experiences with them, more power to you. I'm not trying to, if you bought a sick Ford truck, why didn't I just do this earlier? Oh my god. We're definitely going to stick with this, dude. We don't really care about hitting that one. If you bought a sick Ford truck and you love it, more power to you. I'm not trying to devalue your purchase at all. And also, I don't have that level of influence. At all. But, you know, it's not just me being vindictive. You know, I put my money on the line and the company was, you know, pretty much just unacceptably glib about it. Regardless, though, I have seen, and, you know, I don't wish for the Ford Motor Corporation to fail. I want them to either fail or get better. One of the two. And it seems like people are a little bit more positive about them in the past couple of years. People are into that new Bronco, like, redesign that they're doing. And you know what? Originally, I was gonna say nobody would like to see them, you know, succeed more than me. That's definitely false. I really don't care too much. But it's not like I want new leadership and creative project management to be not rewarded. Anyway. I think if you have firsthand terrible experience with a company, even if, you know, it's rare, I mean, you gotta put your money where your mouth is, right? That's why, like, I've said, like, I'll never buy another Ford product, or car at least, as long as I live. People are like, you don't know that. But I mean, how many cars does somebody buy over the course of their whole life? It's enough that I feel like I can maintain that boycott. And if I didn't maintain the boycott, I would be, you know, doing myself a disservice. You know, maybe like 10% of the money I'm ever going to spend on an automobile, or on total automobiles in my lifetime, went towards a stinker. You know, it's around the point where I maybe would cut my losses and say, not again, never again. But again, if you have good experiences with them, more power to you. Sincerely. See a lot of GTs on the road. I don't know what it is. We were driving out to Kate's parents' place last weekend, and we saw a Ford GT, which is not, I mean, Vancouver is like it's a car city. People are driving amazing, and then amazing stuff, and then also stuff that they think is amazing but is actually overpriced junk. But anyway, it looks cool. All the time. But still, seeing a Ford GT is, like, not rare, but enough to be like, oh, okay. And then, when we were on our way back, we saw two different Ford GTs in traffic, almost right next to each other. It's like, man, it must be like a meetup or something. I don't know. Anyway, those are my thoughts on cars. I don't really have too much else, really. Anecdotally, it's been a pretty low-key week, to be honest. Although, I talked about the AC yesterday, I'm sure. I'll keep talking about the AC just because it's beautiful. This is a fairly low-level complaint, okay? Like, life's pretty good. Obviously, like, in the world, there's some... You know, it hasn't been the greatest year, but on a personal level, you know, we got a lot to celebrate, and we're comfortable. The thing that was uncomfortable is that, like, it was 27 degrees Celsius, roughly, inside of our abode, from you know, the end of April or early May until now. Woke up this morning, looked at the thermostat. 23 degrees Celsius. Oh, baby. I'm stoked. I don't even have the fan going in my office for the first time in 2 months. That's how nice it is. Now, I don't care where you're from, or who you are, or what you did. Wrong. I care what you did, and so does the law. However, 27 degrees, if I went outside and it was 27, I might be a little warm, but I would be like, you know what? This is kind of a nice summer day. Might want a cold drink, but still. 27 inside, that's roughly inescapable. That's hot. Now, I know that, like, NL, there's places in the world that don't even have air conditioners. I've heard of that, yes. I believe I'm familiar. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. There's too much policing around complaining. Oh, if you'll excuse me, a knock, knock, knock on the door. And we're back. Had a little package delivery. You ever notice you can't say package delivery anymore? Double entendre enthusiasts have ruined it for everybody. It's the same reason I can't order a pizza with extra sausage anymore. Pizza place always hangs up on me. They say, sir, we told you, stop calling here. Please, I just want a pizza with extra sausage. For some reason, my voice just sounds flirty by default, I guess. Sir, I told you we don't sell foot-long pizzas with extra sausage. Tell me again. Anyway. I think people police complaining too much. That's my 2 cents. Look, if I lived in a place that did not have air conditioning and it was hot, I wouldn't be like, I wish I had air conditioning. Well, I mean, I might be like, I wish I had air conditioning, but I'd be like, what do I expect, right? But if you live in a place where you like paid for air conditioning and there's like an air conditioning system set up and the AC doesn't work, I think you can complain. If you can't complain about stuff of that ilk, like what can you complain about? Nothing. Exactly. I'll answer my own question to serve my own argument. Also, I don't know, like, whenever people police complaining, it's like, complaining is like a binary thing. Like, you can only complain about things that are existential threats to yourself or your happiness. Like, you could be like, oh, my grandma just died. People would be like, oh, yeah? On the bright side, at least you're okay. And you're like, yeah, I mean, she was 91 years old, and I'm not, so, like, that's kind of the expectation. I don't know, man. The only time it rankles me, though, is when people are like, you can't complain, and then because I'm, you know, at night I find myself with too much time on my hands from time to time. Well, that's a joke, but... Hold on, I don't think we want BFF. I look at their Reddit profile and I see that the person who said that I can't complain, every single one of their posts is complaining about media that's only available on Crunchyroll, if you catch my drift. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. I'm not trying to be malicious or mean-spirited. I'm just saying you gotta, you know, stick to your own standards there, Michel Foucault. Or Michelle Frickoff, please. Now, this is admittedly greed. I'm just gonna leave that. But I am not going to use... And it's already done, but I'm not going to use my stars card to get out of boss rush. Oh, I think we just want that. It's a tears up. Although not a great one. Still, I mean, I don't know. Plus a little rate of fire. The minimum increment to rate of fire is still one of the... Probably in the top, like, 20% of upgrades you can get in this game. So I'm not upset. I think about, like, internet discourse a lot. I don't think there's an easy fix. But I am at least... I'm glad that there is a little push. Like, do I think people are meaner on the internet than they've ever been before? I'm actually gonna hit you with the fact that I believe the answer is no. I think that the internet in, like, 2004 was a disaster. You know, people, you just openly saw people being insanely rude to each other over unbelievable stuff. And they were ostensibly, like, adults, right? Nowadays, you know, you can still see a lot of it. I think that you see a lot more of it just because there's more people online. You know, back in the day, maybe not in 2004, but if you were on the internet in, like, the year 2000, you kind of had to be, like, a little bit of an enthusiast. People caught on pretty quick. But I think back in the, you know, early 2000s, it was like, well, if you don't want to get, you know, horrible things said about you on the internet, then don't go on the internet, sweetheart, because it's the Wild West out here. Now there's a little push towards normalcy. Like, that people, you know, because they spend so much time online, like, maybe half of their lives or more online, people are like, hey, this is as much like real life as real life is. We should be nice to each other. But I think, like, a lot of my own journey with online discourse, and I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm putting myself on a pedestal, but the way that I deal with online discourse is going to be different than the way that you deal with online discourse for most of the people watching this, just because of the fact that, you know, you get a lot less said about you in public, you know? Without being like, that makes me very important or whatever. You know, it just, when you hear some annoying stuff, I don't know, maybe it's the opposite of what I think it is, but I'm like, when you hear annoying stuff once every 6 months, and you're like, this person's being a jerk, I think it's easier to just be like, I think this person's an idiot, and ignore them. When you hear it like 10 times a day from 5 different people, it starts to weigh on you slightly differently, whether for better or worse. But I really think that I've come up with like a 2-step, not a plan, but like a 2-step checklist before I allow myself to get upset at anything I read online. The first one is this person somewhere between the ages of 8 and 16. And that's not to say that I haven't received perfectly, you know, nice discourse from people that are minors. However, you know, that's like the first step of like, should I take this seriously, or did this person just get out of like 7th grade and, you know, they're the 3rd smartest kid in their 7th grade class, so they think that makes them, you know, hot stuff. If they, you know, pass that test, I go, am I misinterpreting this, or is this person arguing in bad faith? You know what I mean? Because sometimes I think, you know, people, both other content creators, but also other human beings online, they'll like read something online and interpret it in the worst way possible. Myself included, you know? Like I've seen, and it's awkward to be there when it happens, but I've seen, oh baby, streamers misinterpret another, maybe like a slightly spicy but otherwise well-meaning comment and just go off, and the whole time you're like, ooh, yikes. So that informs how I want to interact with it, you know? If someone is 15 years old and trolling, who cares? Well, you know, really the joke's on them, because if they had spent that time like learning web development instead, they could be like a multi-millionaire and sell some kind of like Uber for toasters startup by the time they were in college. But instead they wanted to spend their idle time, you know, trolling YouTubers. So be it, you know. It is what it is. And if somebody's deliberately trying to start an argument in bad faith, quite frankly, my time is worth too much, not on a monetary level, but just to me as a human being, to get sucked up into that minutia. I actually just forgot about Boss Rush. So I've tried to limit myself to really only getting involved if it seems like a person is getting involved from a position of, like they're open to being discussed with, not just trying to score like weird dunks. You know what I mean? But I don't see it changing anytime soon, for sure. Like, online discourse is, depending on where you're at, it's like pretty toxic. I will admit. I forgot I could fly. Honestly, I'm going to blow you up. I want that devil deal chance as high as possible. I mean, plus, let's be honest. I mean, we pretty much got this one under control. I'm really not hitting us with like a can't we all just get along. It would be awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. If we could go back to the days, you know, where, like... I really just think we know too much about people now. I strongly believe, that at least the older I get, in the expression that good fences make good neighbors. I feel like if my parents knew absolutely all opinions of everybody they live near at every point in their life, there would have been no potluck dinners. You know what I mean? Might as well take a speed upgrade, I think. There would have been no neighborly play dates. There would have been no barbecues, because it would have been like, oh yeah, well, you know, Tony's a nice guy, but, you know, here's who we voted for in the last 9 municipal elections, and also, you know, hey, he owns 6 Subway franchises, and, you know, he buys lettuce from the cheapest supplier, and, you know, and I'm not, I guess it's weird, right? I feel like it's kind of like, and we're getting a little bit over my station as far as things that I'm qualified to talk about. But I do also think it's kind of like a societal growing pain. Like, it's not necessarily that people are just less civil for the sake of being less civil. I think people are more, you know, aware of the issues in the world around them now and have stronger opinions about stuff than they used to have. And, you know, maybe in the year 2002... you could get away with being like a jerk to your employees, and your neighbors would be like, that's business. But now they're like, you're a D-hole, you know? So it's, I don't want to say that all incivility is bad, because I think some incivility actually kind of owns. But I'm still reconciling it. You know, we're talking about a situation that's in flux right now. It's on. You know, it's unfixed, let's put it that way. I've still got a very malleable opinion on this. I'm torn between, like, hey, I'd like to, you know, have a nice network with my neighbors so I can, you know, like, we can babysit their kids sometimes and they can babysit our kids sometimes, you know? We can, like, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. But I'm also like, I've heard our neighbors speak, and I think that they're... No, that's not true. I was going to say I think that they're terrible people, but that's not true at all. Mostly I've gotten annoyed just because Like, for a long time, they had, like, a huge truck, and we had, like, tight parking spots. So I'd have to, like, squeeze out of my car, and I'd be like, how dare you have a big truck? When really what I should have been saying is like, this parking garage is milking us with these tiny spots. But, you know. It's easier to be like, just sell your car, than it is to be like, let's repaint this whole lot. Regardless. You know, I recognize, wherever possible, you know, I think we've all got blind spots about our own flaws, for sure, but wherever possible, I try to notice my own errors and biases, and like, for example, when people make personal comments about me, I get more upset than the average person does when they read personal comments about me. That's a bias. And then when I say a comment that reflects poorly on other people, and they get upset, I'm like, why are you getting upset? What I said was hilarious, if not a little bit unfair. You know what? Sure, let's take Brittle Bones, and then hear me out. Oh, I got Pyromaniac, right? So they don't hurt me anymore. You might have thought I was a genius, and I was trying to get my HP full. That's not the case. We're so, like, in the clear. What I'm actually trying to do is take a little damage to get our fire rate up. But it doesn't appear to have worked. Maybe we're already at the cap for, like, Brimstone. I mean, what can you say about this run? You know, we had some good banter on this run. I think we waxed philosophical without coming to a conclusion, which is always... It's a nice position to be, because, you know, it allows me to take on some feedback. And I've been reading the comments. I mean, I would say, like, maybe once a week I don't reply to comments, just because, like, I mean, to be honest, I'm working pretty hard, and it occasionally slips my mind, and that is one of those optional things. Like, you know, sometimes you're going to submit a paper in school where you forget to put, like, the title cover on it or whatever, right? You shouldn't, you know, but the actual meat of the report is, admittedly, at the end of the day, much more important than just having the rubric attached. So sometimes it gets to be like midnight and I go to bed at 12:30 and I'm like, I could reply to a bunch of comments, but I could also, like, spend a little time with my spouse, who is 7 months pregnant. And I choose the spouse. 6 times out of 7. But I've been reading the comments. I can see the feedback. That's the other thing, is that, I mean, this is news to nobody, but just knowing that the person is going to be reading the feedback makes the feedback much less negative. And I don't mean negative as in, like, constructive, but in the negative direction, I mean, like, much less openly offensive. Anyway, we're good. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. We're at 14 wins in a row, and I'll see you next time. See ya!